This is something I'm looking forward to, and I'm really glad that we're going to have a discussion here, not just a Q&A. So I've been in the Pittsburgh region now for about a year and a half, and I came here from being in California for 16 years at PG&E. And there are a lot of things that I was able to sort of take from that experience in that time. And I do think, in certain places, California is maybe a little ahead of other parts of the country. And in other places, I might say it's good to kind of come second, because you get to learn from what others have done. And I think that as I came here to Pittsburgh, one of the things that brought me to this region was just the incredible opportunity that we have in this community to really help this region grow and thrive. And at the end of the day, that is my biggest objective, because my company, Duquesne Light, we serve the Pittsburgh region. We can't pick up our business and go somewhere else. We are here, and we will only do well as a company when this region grows and thrives. And frankly, there's real opportunity in this region, because too many people in our region have been left behind. And I think there's clear data and evidence to show that. And for me, as a leader of Duquesne Light, as a citizen in this region, that is lost opportunity. It's lost opportunity for each individual who's not achieving the things that they can accomplish. It's lost opportunity for businesses to continue to innovate and bring new products to market and help this region grow. And it's lost opportunity for me as a business to see, to see our region grow and my company grow. So when I came here, it was a clear priority of the board and a clear priority of mine, based on my experience, to see how, as a utility company, we can make a difference on full inclusion and equity in our region. And that really comes down to several key areas. You talked about workforce. Starts with workforce. As I remind everyone, we are in a changing and evolving marketplace. We need every idea at the table. We need people who come from different experiences, backgrounds, histories, who look at problems different ways. And we need an inclusive culture where those voices are heard. And we had work to go on that, and we still do as a company. We've got a lot of room to make sure our workforce looks like the communities that we serve. And that's when we will have the best and brightest ideas at the table. We also talk about what do we need to do for our customers directly and for our community, because the fact is there are different needs in different parts of our community, and we serve everybody. We serve every African-American in our region. We serve every white person in our region. We serve every Republican and every Democrat. So we have to know and understand our customers to serve them best. And finally, the other pillar for us is around supplier diversity. It's how do we use the economic engine and power of our company to make a difference in our community. And there is a lot of opportunity for us to get better in this space. I came from a utility that had like 42, 43% supplier diversity. And every year I'd get yelled at, why isn't it higher? Because we knew there was real power in that. And here at Duquesne Light, we're just building the program. So every company is at a different stage in that journey. There's something to learn. And what's really important is we focus on progress.
Well, I love that the way you framed this whole discussion from your perspective wasn't just about a feel-good proposition, but that this was really about impact and building the community and creating a thriving ecosystem and community for everyone. A lot of times we get caught up in terms like equity and supplier diversity and D&I, and we make it about a feel-good proposition and really don't talk about how this really undergirds and drives the overall economy. Because, we're only as good as the least of us. And so if someone in our community is not doing well, no matter what the wealth of the community may be, the community itself is not doing well. So I love that you really framed it from the standpoint of workforce, because if you have a strong workforce, now you have a strong tax base, have opportunity for home ownership. You have opportunity to spur entrepreneurship where it may never have been a real possibility for someone. You improve educational opportunities. And so that's oftentimes what we forget when we're talking about supplier diversity or when we're talking about D&I broadly. I mean, I know that one of the missions of Vibrant Pittsburgh is talent retention. Well, you can only retain talent if you have a community, a region where people are interested in staying because they see people that look like them doing well and thriving. And so can you talk more about some of the work that you've been able to do or you're looking to do around those issues?
Yeah, I love the way you framed that, Valarie. It was interesting. Kevin Walker, one of my coworkers who recently joined us, we were having a lot of, challenging and difficult conversations with the entire Duquesne Light team after the killing of George Floyd and after the sort of societal introspection that really came after that. And we decided we were going to have some challenging, real conversations in the company. And Kevin said something that has really struck with me. He said, too often people approach these conversations thinking about them from a point of view of scarcity. This is either you or me. It's either for, one of us, but not for both of us. And we don't operate in a scarce world. We operate in a world where our economy can grow. We can all actually get better. So as I look at this, when you see communities like the Black community in Pittsburgh that are underemployed, undereducated, over-incarcerated, under-healthcared, under-jobbed, under-skilled and talented, and we have too few businesses, that growing and thriving in that community does not have to take away from any other. It makes us all better. It makes us all bigger. So our focus is really on how do we grow the pie for everyone here, and we do that by growing this community. I think that one of the workforce side, I think, is something that we understand, and we need to continue to do that work of recruitment. I will tell you, in that space, one of the things I really worry about is how do we make sure that we don't have an entire generation of kids left behind because of their educational deficits. We have got to prepare our youth to enter the workforce. And that's as skilled tradesmen. I mean, these are jobs in the trades. We have jobs that are union jobs where you can have an entire career easily making more than $100,000 a year. These are what I call generation changing jobs. If you get one of these careers, it not only affects you and your immediate family, it affects your grandkids. And that's true because I wouldn't be here without it. My wife's grandfather came back from World War II as with no job, no skill, and became an IBEW electrician, lineman at Union Electric in St. Louis. That changed everything coming after. So we've got the opportunities to do that. We need to make sure that we've got people prepared and ready for those jobs. And the same is true for, I think, Black-owned businesses in Pittsburgh. The fact is, small businesses are the lifebloods of our neighborhoods. They are the engine that drives our neighborhoods. They have the culture of our neighborhoods. They have the ethos of our neighborhoods. And we need to create more opportunity for Black-owned businesses in Pittsburgh, both through buying that we might do, but also through awareness and community activism.
Well, I'll tell you, you're speaking my language, not only because, of the supplier diversity piece, but I am a strong proponent of really educating kids and getting them aligned to opportunities in the trades. It's a passion platform of mine that there needs to be a public-private partnership with our school districts to start educating our young people so that while we want them to go to college, for those who are not necessarily college bound, giving them an opportunity to go into these building trades where, to your point, there is generational life-changing opportunity. And I think that starts with, you can't start in 12th grade because in order to get into the trades, the math and science that you need to start this in 5th and 6th grade, where you start having these conversations so the kids are properly tracked into the right opportunities in terms of math and science and the educational path. And quite frankly, living in this age of COVID, and so many of our children are virtual, and there's so many deficits that are not being met currently that we're going to have to do even more to create those spaces to ensure that we're pulling these young people forward. And so it's not a one-off where everybody feels good, they've done the right thing for the last 6 to 8 months, and then you walk away from it. This is, a 5, 10, 20-year commitment. You know, it's actually an ongoing commitment that only grows. You do evaluation and process improvement constantly to just intensify the commitment. And in terms of, you know, building diverse suppliers, one of the things that I would say, and what you said, is, you know, that old adage, necessity is the mother of invention. Well, innovation comes out of those communities where there's no other way but to build your own bridge, to build your own ladder, because no one's creating it. And so when you talk about the deficit in the number of Black and brown businesses inside of our communities, one of the things that I'm really interested in, particularly in the utility space, because number one, it's customer facing, but also because utilities are going through a lot of investment in infrastructure, in conversion. And so how do we cycle more businesses into this space where they can support the utility industry, and quite frankly, take the competencies that they build in the utility industry and take those competencies and pivot them into other spaces? I mean, the great thing about Pittsburgh in particular, Western Pennsylvania, is it is a tech mecca. It's a, you know, it's a trade mecca. It's a place where if you get into that right niche space, you can really build your business, because there's a lot of investment being made inside of Pittsburgh around those industries. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that first of all, it's really important that the business community reaches out through partners, but in every way possible, to help entrepreneurs understand the evolution of our business. So we're going to have a supplier diversity summit, and one of the things we want to be able to talk about is what's going on in our business. You need to know what's happening in our business, because I have full confidence that there are all kinds of entrepreneurs out there, either in the tech sector or in the construction sector or in the trade sector, who, when they hear the problems my business has, they're going to come up with the kinds of solutions and have a great product to sell us. So I think as businesses, we need to be talking in forums like this and others about the evolution of our industries and what the future needs are in our supply chain. And then we need to enable entrepreneurs to start businesses to actually go after those opportunities. And I do think that is where, you know, organizations like yours, Valarie, are so important to help empower entrepreneurs to actually engage and do business and grow their business. And it can be very difficult. And I think, you know, candidly, as you sort of were alluding to a second ago, COVID has changed the game, because all of the sectors that were most harmed before and most disadvantaged before felt disproportionate hardship through this time. I mean, Black-owned businesses have failed at a rate twice what white-owned businesses have failed through this time. The African-American children who were disadvantaged by their educational opportunities before are even more so in a virtual world. So it's time for the business community, I think, to really step up and say, we have to play a part in this. We have to make an impact in this. And the time is now. This is not a feel-good thing. This is a business imperative, because if we don't, our workforces of the future, our customers of the future, our communities of the future are going to suffer for a long time.
Correct. I 100% agree. And one of the things I was thinking about, and it's not a political comment, but it's a comment when the issue around fracking came up and there was such a visceral reaction to it, it's because people looked at it as a singular issue and not looking at the impact that it was having, because the industry supports communities, and it's the same thing. It's a bottom up. Communities are supported by industry. So while someone may not be able to work directly for Duquesne Light, there is an opportunity for them to own a local restaurant that feeds employees of Duquesne Light, or supports contractors from Duquesne Light. Maybe they're the promotional company, or you're a printing company, and so they're the promotional company, or you're a printing company, and so what happens is that oftentimes people look at supplier diversity and entrepreneurship as linear, instead of really looking at the vertical impact that it can have and influence that it has. And businesses need to really understand that this is about building their bottom line, because your bottom line doesn't grow without a customer, and you can't have a customer if they don't have any money to spend. And so it really is critically important. So I know we've got some questions coming up in the chat that I see, but one of the things I would ask you is, based on, you know, your experience, and as we're building these programs beyond, you know, 2020, for those colleagues, for your counterparts that may be a part of this conversation and listening in on the webinar, what are some of the best insights and advice you can give as a CEO and leader in this region as to, number one, why we have to focus on building up our diverse supplier ecosystem, specifically Black-owned businesses in Western PA, and how they do it with intentionality and with sustainable focus?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple things I would say, you know, particularly from my experience out in California, you need to make a long-term sustained commitment to this. I mean, we talked about, you know, the flavor of the month kind of thing. That is not what we're talking about here. If you really understand the economic impact you can have in the communities you operate in, if you understand the benefits that can have in follow-on effects of jobs at those businesses, more customers for you, and most importantly, if you recognize that, just like when we're talking about diversity in our talent, not all great ideas come from one group of people. When you put people together with different perspectives, you will always come up with better answers. And the same is true for entrepreneurs and for businesses. When businesses have different approaches, different backgrounds, different perspectives, you will get better solutions. So I'm a firm believer, if your supply base, the more diverse your supply base is, the better answers you're going to get in your business. Now, I will tell you, it can be intimidating to start in this space. And I really encourage people to not let the false choices or the misunderstandings about this space stand in your way. You know, I think we've gotten to a point as a society where we don't look at diversity in the workforce and say, we're gonna make sacrifices in who we are gonna hire. We all know that the best people come in all shapes and sizes. And if your goal is to get the very best people, you better be looking everywhere. The same is true in supplier diversity. So don't let that misdirect you. You can get better answers and have a more reliable, more resilient supply chain the more diverse it is. The other thing I would just say is this outreach point is critical. You need to let the business community understand the future challenges of your business. Put it out there so that entrepreneurs can come and bring you solutions, and actively engage in that and give the time and space for these entrepreneurs to develop. And then the last thing I would say, and now I'm actually going to kind of say something to the diverse owned suppliers. I think that as companies, you know, this is not just about who owns the company. It's about what impact these companies can have in our communities. So talk about not only your ownership structure, but talk about what you're doing in your local communities to help drive a better diverse workforce in your communities. What economic impact are you delivering in the communities that you operate and work in? Because that only further helps me as a buyer to understand the power of our economic transaction. So I just think, be committed to it, because you're going to get to better answers. Stick to it. Don't be distracted by the mistruths out there, and really partner with people who are in it with you.
Well, I can tell you from our conversation, however brief, and we're going to open it up to questions, but Western Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, the state of Pennsylvania, EMSDC, we are all better for having you on board and having you here. I was going to joke about, you know, the weather change that you had to go through moving from California to Pittsburgh, but you've been here a year and a half, so you should be used to it. And right now,
it's 73 degrees in Pittsburgh today. It's like California out there. I think it's what it is all the time.
Spoiled right now, but we know winter is coming. So
true.
So, Tricina, I know that there are some questions in the audience,
Yes.
but Steve, before I leave, I just want to thank you very much for taking the time. I look forward to getting to know you better. I did send you a LinkedIn request, so please accept it. I'm putting it out there in the universe publicly, so you can't.
I already accepted it, Valarie. We're
Awesome.
already connected.
Yes, and he's already my LinkedIn buddy, so yes.
It's great to meet you as well, Valarie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so hello, everybody. We do have some questions in the chat. If Vonda, if you can unmute your mic and I'll let you ask your question.
Hi, my name is Vonda. I'm actually calling from Baytown, Texas. So I am with a chemical company named Covestro. And I noticed that John asked the question of how do we create more opportunities to minority be accepted into the trades? And my thought is can the utility industry be kind of a bridge to help build that path with the trade unions? It was just a thought. So
yeah,
maybe feedback on that.
Yeah, Vonda, well, first of all, hello down in Baytown. I used to work in Houston. That's where I met my wife and we got married. So, and I used to be in Baytown all the time and know Covestro very well. So thanks for joining us.
Nice, thank you.
So, I totally agree that I think the utilities are a good sector for really understanding how we do this best. I've been having a lot of conversations with different union trade leaders across the Pittsburgh region about what we can do together. I think each company and trade union sort of has their own programs to bring people in and educate people. Duquesne Light, we have our electric distribution technician program, our EDT program, which we're starting a new class of, and we've continued to do that. We actually have started doing boot camps for EDT to help particularly minority and disadvantaged students who may not have had the educational opportunity to pass some of the entry tests. We're doing boot camps to help train them. And we partner with the Community College of Allegheny County to help train people in the skills that are necessary to become union linemen. But I really do believe actually there's more we can do together. And if we partner with with multiple unions together, because there's basic skill sets that are needed no matter which craft or trade you really want to go down. If you want to be a steam fitter, a welder, a lineman, you need some basic math, some basic science. You need those kinds of skills. And I think that's something I'm continuing to hope to work with my trade partners to see if we can come up with something together that can really amplify our leverage here.
Okay, and John Thomas, while the question was originally yours, did you want to expand upon that question for Steve? Okay.
Yes, I mean, what happens oftentimes, people always go to that issue of minorities not having the skill set, but that's not the whole story, particularly in Philadelphia. There are minorities who definitely can pass the entrance exams, and some of them are college graduates and they still don't get admitted into the trade union. So it's not all just because people can't pass the exams. So we talk a lot about opportunities in the trades, but minorities are not given those opportunities. So we're not giving those middle class, those good paying jobs in a city that's predominantly minority.
Yeah. Yeah, John, I mean, I can't really speak to Philly, because of the Pittsburgh-Philly rivalry, I have to dislike them, but
No, that's not true. That's not true.
But no, I will just say, I mean, what you're raising is a really serious issue. And I think that, candidly, this is why businesses and the unions are going to have to partner together with genuine commitment to solve this. Because just like, I mean, Duquesne Light Company does not have the kind of history in these types of issues that I wish we had. We have our own bad stories of lack of equitable access, discrimination, and other things. These are unfortunately the bricks we're all hauling along, called systemic racism. So we just have to tackle it together. And I'm trying to do that here with our union groups as well. And I've by the way seen great commitment to this from many of the trade unions, including IBW 29 that we work with. but other trade unions across Pittsburgh to deal with it. But it's going to take a lot of effort.
So
Okay. Go ahead, Valarie. Go ahead.
And John, to add on to this, and I'm glad we're having this conversation with Duquesne and Steve, I'm glad we're having this with you as well. It's because EMSDC has very strong partnerships with most of our utilities throughout our footprint. And this is an area where I think there is universal commitment. This boot camp and really introducing this boot camp idea that you talked about, Steve, is something that I've heard more than once as being an initiative. And so, John, I think that one of the things that I like to do, and for those who don't know, John is the local president of the National Association of Minority Contractors out of Philadelphia. And so he has a very unique perspective in history and understanding of what he's talking about. One of the things, though, John, that I like to be able to bring you in on is that conversation about how, through leveraging our relationships with the utilities, we can introduce more Black and Brown individuals into the unions, even those, to your point, that don't need the training, they just need the opportunity. So how do we help? How do we introduce those businesses to these companies who are seeking to diversify, particularly their trades? And utilities are a great area because I think there's just a universal desire to make some things happen.
Excellent.
Sounds great. I look forward to working with you on that.
All right, John.
Thank you. And we have a question from Elwin.
Yes, good afternoon. Hey, Steve. Elwin Monroe from Dexcom in San Diego, California. I'm the Supplier Development Manager, and we recently started our diversity program. We've been a diverse company unintentionally for many years, but now we're definitely pushing, the initiative. My question is, any best methods to outreach to small diverse companies that you can recommend to the group today?
And Owen, do you mean like methods that companies like mine can do outreach to diverse companies, suppliers, or the other way?
Correct. The way your company can do, I don't know, outreach events. I mean, how are you trying to procure or at least give the opportunities to smaller companies to participate and get into those RFQs?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And it is kind of hard. I will say, having worked in California, I think everybody knows in California, the utilities make a priority around supplier diversity. It's a known market. There's a lot of activity around that space. So what we're trying to do, candidly, it starts with things like this. It starts with us engaging in different forums, as many as we can, and making it clear this is a business priority for Duquesne Light, so that we are in the market and we are looking. We're going to be launching this supplier diversity, our supplier diversity summit, to try and talk to diverse suppliers who either are doing business with us now or may not be. We're partnering with organizations like this one, but also with trying to partner with EEI and other national groups that are active in this space. I think it's really in hearing like things like this. I want to know what you do. So we want to understand what you can offer and what you can do, and we'd love to talk to you about it. So please just reach out. Feel free to reach out to me. Drop me a LinkedIn request, and I'll connect you to our team.
Excellent. Awesome. I want to thank all of our questioners and our participants or speakers with Steve Malnight and Valarie Cofield. We appreciate the hearty conversation. There are a couple more questions in the Q&A that fall in line with the one that was just asked. And so I would recommend also connecting with Steve on LinkedIn as he requested. And we appreciate your participation. We're going to move the program forward, and I'm going to introduce you to our next speaker. We have an MBE spotlight. Jean Watty is Chief Executive Officer of Alpha Business Solutions and Diversent LLC. He is a trained mechanical engineer, a visionary entrepreneur of a minority business enterprise that specializes in providing fully managed payroll services, IC compliance, and risk mitigation. Jean is also the co-founder of Diversent, as I said, the nation's largest African-American owned IT staffing firm in the US. In many ways, both companies are a reflection of his professional expertise, personal drive, and his commitment to helping others. Gene shares his knowledge and expertise with other MBEs by serving as an active board member with the New York, New Jersey Minority Supplier Development Council, and he has conducted many workshops for the Eastern Minority Supplier Development Council, primarily noted during our seminal events, the ROAR conferences. So I happily present to you Gene Watty. Gene?
Thank you so much, Tricina, and I want to thank the EMSDC, Valarie Cofield, and Vibrant Pittsburgh for giving me this opportunity to address the group today. And thank you, Steve, also for your comments related to Duquesne and your efforts. It's a rare occurrence where someone in your position is so transparent with the successes and also the areas that require improvement. So I think that's something that we definitely need to make sure we make note of. So thank you for that. So I have an interesting story. So I am, just by introductions, I'm first generation college graduate. I am the son of a proud union member. So I'm a blue collar kid. My dad worked in a chemical factory for 30 years. So I know how important it is to have gainful employment because it acts as a springboard for the next generation. So I had it all planned out. I was going to go to engineering school, become a mechanical engineer, work for the same company for 30 years like my dad, and retire and get the gold watch and be done with it. But that's not, that wasn't the path that was laid out for me. I worked in the IT staffing industry for about 10 years, worked my way up into solid middle management, and then got laid off. And at that point, I had to make a decision. It was a crossroads. Do I go back and work for someone else, or do I actually take a step out there and start my own company? So against all advice, and I mean all advice, my mother and father did not understand, what I was doing, and they were just baffled that I would go consider starting my own business. But I got out there, I co-founded Diverse in 2005, and then I discovered the power of supplier diversity. And I knew just enough to be dangerous. I've been Black my whole life, so I was already halfway there in my mind and getting this all figured out. And I learned about EMSDC, and I got certified with the New York, New Jersey Council. And I already knew my stuff. I grew up in the staffing industry, right? The IT staffing industry, it's crowded, but if you work hard, you can make a go of it. And when I got certified, I understood the power behind supplier diversity. And I'll tie that to my experiences with EMSDC. So being that I'm from New Jersey, I didn't know much about the Philadelphia market, let alone the Pittsburgh market. So as I got the business going, I started to reach out to other presidents of various councils and got to know Valarie. And one thing I learned very quickly is that no one says no to Valarie Cofield. So that's why I'm here talking to you today, and I'm proud to say that. But what Valarie's organization was able to help me to do was to pierce the veil of markets that I was unfamiliar with. So because of my relationship with EMSDC and being a supplier at firms in that marketplace like Independence Blue Cross and Comcast and Merck and so on and so forth, I was able to now springboard into the Pittsburgh market. And another thing that I learned really early on is that Pittsburgh and Philadelphia are very, very different places indeed. Being from New Jersey, I'm thinking, it's Pennsylvania, what's the difference? Here's how I knew the difference. One of my first business events I got to go to in Pittsburgh, I'm not sure, it may have even been a Vibrant Pittsburgh event. It might have been a mixer of some sort. And I was with folks from Highmark. right? Big employer in the Pittsburgh market. And as all of the folks from Pittsburgh began to congregate during this cocktail, as a matter of fact, they're Pittsburghers. I didn't realize that. I learned that they were called Pittsburghers. The Pittsburghers started to get together and talk a little bit. And there's a ritual that they have where they almost challenge one another's level of Pittsburgherness, if that's a word. And what they do is they basically haze each other. And this is how the conversation went. Okay, hey, great. Where are you from? I'm from Swickley. Oh, really? Okay, well, I'm from over here in Moon Township and I do this or that. Okay, great. Are you over by the shop, right? No, I mean, are you over by the Kroger, or are you by the Starbucks? No, not that one. That one closed. But so-and-so, now I'm over at the other. And I'm listening to this. And they eventually got down to, okay, so where did you go to high school? Oh, I went to high school over here. Oh, wait, is that before the annex? They built the annex, or before so-and-so retired? I'm listening to this and I'm saying to myself, if it wasn't for EMSDC and having relationships, because Valarie has a presence in both markets, I would be done, because I'm an outsider. And that is what I learned right away, the power of the EMSDC and certification. Sticking in there and learning how things work, being patient, being all about excellence. I know my business cold, but I needed help. Eventually, I began to get the attention of some folks in supply chain at Highmark. Another year or so passed. I was able to worm my way into some business. I'm on the supplier list now. I'm a preferred supplier. What did that do? That opened doors to BNY Mellon down the street. So now I'm a supplier there as well. Now I'm firmly established in Pittsburgh. I'm going to be opening an office next year. I'm going to be hiring more folks. I even joined the African American Chamber of Western Pennsylvania, right? Because this is an insular marketplace. And you have to have help. And EMSDC was one of the tools that I was able to use. So to give you a feel for how I have leveraged supplier diversity and the importance of supplier diversity as a business driver, an economic driver, when I got certified in 2005, I had revenue 0. I was a class 0. I didn't even have a class. Today, I am a class 4. Diversant, my first company, is a $190 million firm, one of the largest African-American owned IT staffing firms in the country. And I owe that because of organizations like EMSDC and folks like Valarie and her peers in the various marketplaces at the different chapters of the National Minority Supplier Development Council. Because life wasn't complicated enough, I started another business in 2017, Alpha Business Solutions, which is a payroll solutions company. That is now at a forward tracking run rate of $25 million. Guys, I'm good, but I'm not that good. Okay, I hire well, and my superpower is relationship building. That's really what I'm good at. And I tend to stick to what I'm good at. So to the extent you can learn, like Steve said, understand what's going on with the customer, that is paramount. Be about excellence. Know your business cold and know your client's business. Know where they're going. What keeps them awake at night. And then use EMSDC and organizations like it to put yourself in the room and thereby increasing your chances of making the pitch to someone like a Steve who can sign stuff. Keep it simple, don't overcomplicate it. There is no commodity more crowded than IT staffing. Usually when you mention IT staffing at an event, people run down the hallway screaming because they don't want to talk to you. And that's something that I'm very upfront about. But look at me, first generation, blue collar kid, union kid, went from getting laid off, not really sure what was coming next, to 16 years later, being number 21 or 22 on the Black Enterprise 100. Take this to heart. It works. You got to pay your dues, got to work hard, start the day early, end the day late, You may miss a few dinners, you're going to miss a few baseball games, but if you stick with it and you do business from a position of integrity, good things happen. And some of the good things that happen is that you can become an employer and increase the size of the pie, the economic pie, for everybody. That's what's neat about being an entrepreneur, right? Use every tool available to you. The NMSDC, EMSDC, the chapters, there's a whole bunch of Valaries out there in this National Minority Supplier Development Council network. Use them. Use them, because then one day you can turn around and say, hey, you know what? I started as a class O, and now I'm a class 4, right? And I've been doing this 16 years. When I started, I had more hair and I was a lot thinner, but I'm just getting started, right? And if you could tell, when I'm telling my story and I'm out here talking about it, I can't help but smile, because I'm excited and I know the future is bright, not just for me, but for the country as a whole. Right? There are certain things in this country that still work, right? And I'm living proof of it. So I'll keep it short. I know there's probably questions. Tricina, I'm here to take questions as long as we can. And then if we have to go offline, you know, you have my contact information.
I think it's a great time. This is Laura McKnight with Vibrant, for us to begin some Q&A. Does anyone have a burning question for Jean? You can type it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and speak up.
Jean, where do you see going in next 2 to 5 years?
When personally, the company, or?
Both.
Oh.
Personal life and
oh, goodness.
Business life.
All right. So personal life, let me start with the personal life. I have 2 teenagers. I have a 17-year-old who, by the way, was recruited as a Division I rower for Drexel. So that's another Pennsylvania connection. She's going to be 2021. She's going to be right downtown Philly, and I have an office in downtown Philadelphia, so that's where I'll be. My son is 15. I have 2 dogs. I married my college sweetheart, and life is very, very busy. So in the next 2 years, I'm going to continue my other job, which is an Uber driver for my kids, until I get them out of the house. That's what I'm going to be doing. One of my best jobs. Business-wise, I think Alpha is 25 million. I will consider myself an underachiever if I don't get that to 100 million. I think we can do it. In the payroll space, there are no African-American male-owned firms that can scale. To a lesser extent, the same is true on the staffing side of the business as well. There's just not a lot of African-American male-owned firms that are doing business with some of the companies I mentioned earlier. So we got Diversant to 190 million in 16 years. I'm 52. By 55, I want to see Diversant. It maybe can't double, but I want to see another 100 million on the top line. And Alpha, like I said, I think I can take the payroll to 100 million easy. Another thing I'd like to do in the next couple of years is get into better shape. There's no point in going through all this if you're gonna have health challenges later in life. That's my daughter talking to me, the vegan, in my ear. But
hey, Jean, this is Tricina. So, one of the things that EMSDC is really big on is MBE to MBE. Yes. And as a class 4 business, do you find yourself often partnering with other MBEs to fulfill your contracts? I mean, since you are essentially a tier 1 company, bringing in others, especially those in the various regions, to do work with you to execute on these contracts.
Oh, absolutely. I have a formal program called the Unity Program, UNITY, where I mentor no less than 15 MBEs at any one given time. I do that personally. Like I said, I'm busy, but this is something that brings me great joy. is helping other MBEs avoid some of the pitfalls or mistakes that I made. And I'm very transparent about them because I made a lot of them and I'm still making them. Very expensive mistakes, but you fail your way to success in a lot of ways. So I do that. From a subcontracting perspective, Tricina, that is one of my secret weapons, is my network of other MBEs. Why is that? Some of them have relationships that I do not have. Some of them need help scaling their business. Maybe they need a partner, right? So this is what I do day in and day out. That's how you make it rain.
I know it is. I know it is. And I wanted to bring that up because we have some folks who are on the webinar who would be good partners.
I tell people it's easy to become a millionaire, but you stay a millionaire by making others millionaires. And you share. To Steve's point earlier, there's so much out here for everybody. There's no reason that we can't work collaboratively together with your competitors as well as your non-competitors. So that's a great question. And go on the website for Diversant or Alpha. You'll see the Unity information. If you're interested about joining the program and having me or someone on my team help out, this is what I love to do more than anything else. So thanks for the question.
That's great. And that really rolls into another question that we had about keeping motivated and transferring that to your employees. But it sounds like you're doing that, you know, with all of these partnerships as well. So
yes,
I would say, yeah, that level of motivation is amazing. And we have another question. What are some of the best practices that companies who are trying to create supplier diversity programs should really look into from your perspective?
I think that you have to realize that minority business owners span the whole business, the whole gamut of different types of businesses, right? So we're not all promotional products companies. We're not all staffing companies. I know guys and gals who have chemical companies. I know one particular guy that Steve would be interested in, that actually manufactures scrubbers for energy companies so that their emissions are cleaner, right? I know some that have paper companies. So when you put together your supplier diversity program, understand that you're going to have to make some investments in expertise so that the gatekeepers, if you will, know a good supplier when they see one, right? Because if not, if you have one person, this is how, as an MBE, even when I was coming up in the space, it would make my spidey sense tingle if a company that was worth $1 billion had one supplier diversity person and only one. That means that person, there's no way that person could know enough to help steer us in the right direction, right? So I think making that investment, and then once you make it, as it pertains to tier 1 and tier 2 relationships, and I don't want to go too much into the inside baseball, but don't leave it in the hands of your tier 1s to bring this minority spin to you. You have to stick your nose in and make sure that it happens and what is measured, because what is measured gets done.
I agree 100%. And that's why we have really expanded a lot of what we are measuring in the Pittsburgh region around supplier diversity and those movements within organizations. Let's see, any other questions? Valarie was interested in how you capitalized your first business.
Oh boy, that's a good one. How did I capitalize the first business? Well, the first business, Valarie, I had $1 and a dream. I didn't have any capital. I had what little capital I had was in my separation agreement, right? I worked 10 years for another corporation, and I burned through that money so quick, it was amazing. So then I went on the family plan. I begged and borrowed from family members, and then I got lucky. I actually, through a friend of a friend, met my current business partner who already had a business for 10, 15 years, already had banking relationships. So we did a proof of concept for the first year to see if I knew what I was talking about when it came to the power of supplier diversity and such. And as I grew the business, then I was able to be introduced to his network. And that's when I realized business banking is all about relationships. There's a bank, there's a financial services entity for every type of business at every stage of development. The work is getting out there, getting used to being told no, and having fun with it. In other words, you can't let yourself be discouraged. You're one handshake away from somebody that's going to see the vision and help you fund it. Yeah.
Thank you so very much. That was really insightful. And I know that we have questions that are coming into the chat, but Tricina, it looks like we may need to be moving into our panel discussion. Do we have time for one more question?
Sure.
Okay, great. So Stacy is asking Jean, talking about tier 1, tier 2, one of Covestro's goals is to utilize primarily certified diverse suppliers, and our sourcing managers request and have access to these membership sites to find potential diverse suppliers. Do you have any other approaches that you could recommend?
Yes. I find that the databases that many of the organizations use, whether they're corporate members or otherwise, tend to be static, so that the data that's put in, I mean, I've had companies approach us and they have my profile from 10 years ago, right? So it may not be as updated. To be honest, the best way that I've found to help the corporations find suppliers is really word of mouth. And I'll use the quick example. Independence Blue Cross, Chuck Stefanowski, who's a procurement gentleman there in downtown Philly. I've been doing business with Chuck. I've known Chuck for almost 25 years. When he has a need, he may go in his database, he may get some information from various councils, but he'll call me and call other trusted advisors and say, have you heard of this company? Can you check them out? Can you talk to them for me? Gene, you're a supplier. Tell them what it might take. And what we find at that point, the blinders are off. So we can say to them, listen, all that glitters isn't gold. So here are the payment terms. Here are the insurance requirements. Here's the volume that you're going to have to be able to process on a weekly basis. If you're not up for that today, doesn't make you a bad person. It just means we need to work on some development, capacity building, and continuing to look for other opportunities while we do that.
Excellent. Jean, thank you so much. And I just want to let everyone know that as we move into our panel discussion, Jean will be one of our panelists, so you will continue to have the opportunity to pose questions to him at the end of the panel discussion. So our panel discussion will be moderated by Dr. Joylette Portlock, who is the Executive Director of Sustainable Pittsburgh, a nonprofit working to advance sustainability policies and practices in Southern Pennsylvania. Sustainable Pittsburgh regularly works with hundreds of partners in the region, including local governments, nonprofits, and the business community, to ensure our economy is built to last and that our people and our planet thrive. Prior to her role at Sustainable Pittsburgh, Dr. Portlock served as Associate Director of Science and Research at the Carnegie Museum of Natural History and as Executive Director of Communitopia, a nonprofit based in Pittsburgh that focuses on climate change communication. She holds a bachelor's degree in biology with a minor in anthropology from MIT and a PhD in genetics from Stanford University. Her work focuses on building community around sustainability topics with a particular interest in making important scientific, technical, and complex information accessible and useful. Dr. Portlock has worked on environmental issues at the local, state, and federal level, and also currently serves on the Allegheny County Board of Health. Joylette, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Tricina. Thanks to everybody for joining us today. Thank you to Vibrant Pittsburgh for this event and to EMSDC for the invitation to moderate this panel. We have so much knowledge and expertise that'll be coming at you very shortly, which I'm very excited about. It's just really wonderful to be here. So as Tricina just introduced, Sustainable Pittsburgh is a 21-year-old organization, working with many other organizations across the 10-county region. Our mission is to empower decision-making that builds a fundamentally equitable, resilient, healthy, and prosperous region, which is a mission that's only become more important across this incredibly momentous year. And I think also illustrates an important point that sustainability means different things to different people when they hear it, but it's not just environment, right? Equity is a key and critical component of sustainability and of making sure we are building the region, our communities to last. So through our performance programs, we provide tools and resources for hundreds of companies. We do the same through networks we host, like the CEOs for Sustainability Executive Network, which is co-chaired by Steve Malnight, who we just heard from, and Charles Taran, who we are about to hear from as part of this panel today. It's really my honor to be here with leaders and experts in the practical work of building relationships to help improve supplier diversity. And I like this theme that seems to be coming out of the conversations today around that relationship building as being so critical, and access to the opportunity to build those relationships as being so critical to doing this work and making progress. So I'm gonna move to just inviting our panelists to do some quick introductions before we move on to questions. With us today are Jean Watty, CEO of Alpha Business Solutions, who's rejoining us as part of our panel, Charles Taran, as I mentioned, president of SciTech Consultants, and Singh Ajmani, founder and CEO of Logix Gurus. So Jean, we've already met, so let's have our two remaining panelists introduce themselves and their businesses with a little bit about your business, how long you've been in business, and your value proposition to corporations as you go about your work. Why don't we start with Charles?
All right, thank you, Jolette. Good to speak with you again. Always a pleasure. I'm Charles Taran. I'm the president and founder of SciTech Consultants Incorporated. We're a civil engineering firm. We actually provide civil, environmental, and geotechnical engineering and surveying. Homegrown firm here in Pittsburgh. We've been in business for 24 years, so we've been around for a while. We have offices in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, as well as Washington, PA. In terms of our value proposition, we provide civil engineering, and we do a lot of government work. And so what I've learned over the years is our value proposition has been focused on relationship building, and which was one of the things that Jean mentioned, building long-term sustainable relationships with our clients, which are either government agencies or we do a lot of work as a sub-consultant, as you might expect, as a sub-consultant to large engineering firms. But the value proposition doesn't change. It's becoming a valued supplier and giving them that personal touch and building those relationships. And so what has happened over the years is, we got to a point very quickly where, because we're focused on relationship building, we do a lot of repeat business. A lot of business comes to us. We don't have a very robust marketing effort in terms of prospecting for new business. I mean, we do it, we have it, but the relationship building aspects of our business brings a lot of business to us. And so we try to remain focused on that and putting our clients first.
Great, thanks very much for that introduction. Singh? And
yes. I don't know where to start without starting first from PRMPC before EMSDC. My story is a little different. I want to share this with you, although it is not business relevant. As they say, kick in the butt that drove me to start my business. When I finished my MBA from University of Pittsburgh, I'm an engineer from India. Came in 1972, 1978, I finished my MBA. When my boss, I told my boss, hey boss, give me a little bit more work that I can use my MBA. And he said, sing that degree and 50 cents will give you bus ride home. That I felt was really the best lesson, best motivator. And I wanted to get into business for myself. Now that short story brings me to, I'm going to skip the 20-year period where I started another business and another business. I became a consultant myself. But in 2000, I started Logix Guru. That is a software development, IT consulting, IT staffing company. We do software development, professional staffing, quality assurance and testing, and mobile application development. Our differentiator is our integrity and our commitment both to our consultants who need to be treated as gurus and our clients who need to get the value. Again, in business since last 20 years, growing, but Gene, absolutely not anything like you. We are a tier 2 or class 2 company. Tricina asked me, are you class 2 or 3? I said, I don't know what class is. So she mentioned that I'm class 2. And Valarie, thank you very much for all the help. And Tricina, thank you for bringing me here. That's all I have.
Great, thank you as well for that introduction. So I'll get started with just a couple questions before we move to Q&A from everyone in attendance. And I'll start with a little bit of context and kind of bringing back to all the different things we've been talking about already today about the benefits of supplier diversity, right? We know that supplier diversity uplifts the communities where those businesses are located through job creation, through increased wages and tax revenue. We know that it has a number of benefits to the corporations in terms of increasing competition and demonstrating community commitment and cultivating new customers and helping to expand through those relationships, right? So this is for all the panelists, and I'm going to let whoever wants to take it first take it. Building on that and all the conversation we've heard already. How does your company have a local impact here in the region on sustainable, equitable development?
Well, I'll go first. So we sort of have a advantage, I guess, because we're in the development business. We provide site design for a lot of projects, and some time ago, very early on, there was this move to being more sustainable in the work that we do. Especially with respect to management of stormwater, also with respect to just the designs, having designs that have less of an impact on the environment. So I think one of the things that has helped us is just by paying attention to the client base, to the community, to the public at large, being sensitive to those issues, and then incorporating that those features and those aspects into our design. So it comes part and parcel, with the work that we do, and so we have to stay abreast and stay, up to speed on some of the different approaches we can take in our designs as we work with not only new development projects, but we get a lot involved with rehabilitating older facilities and returning them to useful life as well. So it's a big part of what we do.
Great, and that's certainly an important contribution in terms of built environment. There are a number of other, facets, right, that we've been talking about sustainability, and maybe our other panelists want to talk as well about those kinds of impacts to people around really building communities that work for everybody.
Absolutely, absolutely. As far as Gene, you want to go first, or? Okay. We have about 60, 65 consultants that help in development of sophisticated software for whether it is healthcare or finance or manufacturing, call it US Steel, or many number of programs where talent is not available locally. We bring talent from outside even. They become Pittsburgh residents. They bring their families, they buy homes and send their kids to school, spend money here, and they make the community more vibrant. Even here, we make sure that we are a small company, but we are strong enough to value them, make sure that our people are not laid off. If a project ends one place, we absolutely work very hard to find another place. And we are currently in the process of taking on software development in-house, so that if we have experts that are available, that get laid off, if you will, from the job, we use them. Our vision is that we work with the companies that help the community grow. For example, our software in itself does not help the community, but if we help doctors do a better job, or employee health record do a better job, or health insurance company do a better job, or PNC Bank do a better job, in that sense, we are helping the community by serving our customers to serve the community better.
Absolutely. That's exactly right.
That's part of our mission, actually, if you look at our mission. Thanks, Jim.
That's I'm going to dovetail on what Sahendra said, and that's it in a nutshell. I mean, being a good supplier, we help our clients in their mission, and some of our clients are insurance companies, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, the Highmark, health insurance, Independence Blue Cross health insurance. So we pride ourselves in being able to help the community thrive, as we support our customers. We have a very tangible example of that that just happened this summer with the onslaught of COVID-19, where we had customers who were going to furlough an upwards of 200 consultants. And we stepped in and we leveraged our payroll protection money, PPP program from the government. And we leveraged every penny of that money to support those folks to avoid a furlough. And that, in my 16 years of doing this, I think was one of my proudest moments, because there were people, if you looked in the newspapers and on social media, there were CEOs that got PPP funds and bought sports cars and vacation homes and all kind of foolishness. I'm proud to say that we took it was a couple of $1 million. It was, and we spent every dime of it on those employees that were affected by the downturn that COVID cost, all of us a cost. So that's our story.
On that subject, I must say this humbly and thankfully to my customers and to the employees, that although we were approached by our banker, the SBDC, to look for and clearly that we would qualify for PPP, we felt that we don't want to do it because once again, the customers cooperated and employees cooperated. We refused to even think about the PPP. It is just that the team, I just feel good about it. Just feel that, I shouldn't say I feel good about it. I feel humbled, and I have a lot of respect now for my customers who stuck with us and our employees who worked hard to justify their presence and worked hard so that they were not laid off.
Yeah, it was a tough time. I mean, for us, it was The folks that were going to be laid off in our example, that made it really important for us to step in is because they were all seniors. So we have one customer who provides gainful employment to folks over 60 years old. So because they were high risk, they weren't laid off because of economic reasons, it was because of health reasons. So that's why it wasn't because of a lack of money, it was a lack of those. We didn't want to have our employees out and about possibly get infected when it didn't have to be. So it was one of those things that really, it was a win-win for everybody.
Beautiful.
There are so many things about this time, that we're all experiencing that are causing such acute stresses for, continuity of operations for any number of reasons. I'm finding it interesting to think about both those immediate, clear and present challenges for financial sustainability, right? And economic sustainability as we look towards what we need to build, what we know we need to build better in the future. And so I'm wondering, in this space where there is a lot of uncertainty, what are you doing in your companies in terms of innovation, advantages, best practices that are sticking with you and are potentially helping or presenting your value proposition in a good way to potential clients?
Excellent question. Excellent question. Although we have 4 segments to our business, still majority of our revenue comes from staffing. And if staffing is not a good fit, it does not work. The person gets laid off. So we have developed an in-house software. We call it Connect Direct Solutions. So it is higher quality with substantial reduction in cost, so that when we select a person, most of it is done by the system, unbiased, transparent, so that we can offer to our customers a quick turnaround time, quick search time, and a better fit. That is something new. It is we call it a platform for ethical hiring. It goes beyond any other. We don't ask even the name, so that we don't know what national origin the person is, unless we qualify and the person is hired. One thing that I would like to mention, that in any situation, right from the beginning, we had felt that we need to do our best. If we are saying, I'm saying Indian life matters, or I want to say Ajmani life matters, my name matters. So if I'm putting my name out there, I have to do my very best. Simple as that. So and that goes for any name. And once we do that, a lesson that I learned from UPMC minority person, director, she said, saying, I can put you in touch of the manager, but if you don't perform, it will be a shame for all minority.
That's true.
Then I will not be able to refer another minority as the same buyer. So I think we as minority group have a deep sense of responsibility to perform not only for our good, but for the good of our community. To me, that is sustainability. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Jean or Charles, do you want to add on to that conversation about innovation, best practices?
Yes, just from our perspective, one of the best practices that actually, I think, went a long way to saving us during the economic tsunami that hit us along with the COVID was we established remote work abilities 4 years ago. And so when COVID hit, switching to an all remote workforce was easy for us, We had already put everything in place. We had the security in place. We had hardware and software standards. So it was easy to flip the switch. And so now 99.9% of all of our employees work from home. And to be honest with you, we're not looking to even consider bringing them back until next year sometime. So best practices save the business from innovation perspective. We're always trying to come up with new and innovative ways to save our customers money and to save money for ourselves as well, such as long-term leases. I think we heard that earlier. We're looking at where we spend our money when it comes to leases and such, and where our customers are concerned, they are in a position where they are shrinking their supply chains, not expanding them necessarily. So what we're trying to show them is that with bringing on a firm like mine, a diverse supplier, you can kill several birds with one stone. You can bring in a fresh outlook via a company that can scale and play the game on the big stage. You can increase your diversity spend, which we know is important to you. And then you can also show the community that while you are truly, yes, you are reducing the supply chain, but you are being intentional about making sure that diverse suppliers have a seat, a well-earned seat at the table.
Yeah, I think that's really insightful. We're going to need to move to Q&A pretty soon here and give everyone the opportunity to ask questions. But before we do that, Charles, did you want to add anything to this question before I give it back over to Tricina to moderate the Q&A?
Sure. Yeah, I'll be quick. Yeah, our experience was kind of the opposite of Gene's. Being a design firm with 3 offices, we pretty much did not have a major work from home footprint. It had been an issue we had been addressing, over time, slowly, but wasn't anything we'd embraced wholeheartedly. And then in March, when Governor Wolf gave his order shutting down everything, we basically had to flip in a week and get set up to be a complete and total work from home company. And we did it. I don't know how we did it, but we outfitted everybody. We made some good decisions on technologies to use. Some employees were able to take advantage of their own computers and equipment they had at home. Others, we had to buy equipment or send their computers home with them. So we put all of that infrastructure in place in about a week. And so the innovation, I think, in that aspect was just embracing technology wholeheartedly and being very nimble and very fast. But then once we were working from home, we had to figure out how to operate from home. It's one thing to be at home, but then how do you function? How do you continue to service your customers? And then I think the most interesting aspect was, okay, how do we relate now? How do we keep the relationships in place, the inner workings among our fellow employees and our clients? And so, like everyone, we embrace things like this, Teams meetings and Zoom meetings, but we had to set up some additional working groups electronically via Teams that we hadn't had in place before, because we could just get up and walk over to people and talk to each other. You couldn't do that anymore. So we set up a series of regular group meetings via Teams just to keep everybody connected and talking to each other. And then one recent innovation that we did as well is we went to a totally online performance review and appraisal system, which we had been planning to do anyway, but it kind of made sense. I'm glad we were headed down that path anyway because of COVID. So we now have a totally online performance review and appraisal system that we invested in. It's a 360-degree assessment, not only by the manager with his employee, but we involve peer reviews and client reviews. And so it's really helped us navigate through this whole process.
Great, thank you so much. And thank you to all the panelists. And I think there are some additional questions. If you have them, put them in the chat, and I will turn it back over to Tricina to moderate that part of the discussion.
Hi, so before we go into Q&A, Valarie had some comments that she put into the chat. And I just want to verbalize those to add them into the conversation. She's saying 2 things. One is critically important to understand that every situation is different and to recognize that fully 47% of Black-owned business have gone under as a result of the COVID crisis and the social unrest. And in fact, a disproportionate number of Black and Brown businesses did not even have access to PPP or EIDL to sustain their businesses. And this elevates the need for streamlined access to capital, building banking and financial services relationships, and sustainable pipelines of contracting and business opportunities. And she also says that diverse businesses disproportionately employ diverse individuals means that losing any diverse business takes jobs out of the economy. And to understand the impact of losing 47% of Black-owned businesses, robust supplier diversity programs have a multiplier impact on the economy. And we know that every dollar spent locally recirculates back into the community 1.5 times. So for every dollar of local spend, that's approximately $1.50 to the community. And so if there, one other thing, we know that EMSDC certified businesses have contributed $4.3 billion to the regional economies of Pennsylvania, Delaware, and Southern New Jersey, producing $1 billion in wages, 16,500 employees, of which 65% are diverse, and an average number of 3 employees per MBE. In Pennsylvania alone, that's $4.6 billion in GDP contribution, with 24,000 jobs supported and 1.5 billion in income supported, with 12,562 MBEs. So I know that that's a mouthful, but wanted to put that out there about, again, who we are and who we represent and why these things are important. And since we're all in Pittsburgh, we are all connected to, even if it's through social platforms, to having heard the voices of folks who have had issues with capital to sustain themselves. And so just wanted to put that out there. Are there any questions that folks wanted to share in the last couple of minutes that we have before I turn this back over to Sabrina to close out? And if there aren't any questions, I just want to put up this slide very quickly. If you're interested in learning more about how we can help your corporation become successful in supplier diversity, please feel free to contact me. My email address is tcash@emsdc.org. Our website address is emsdc.org. I want to thank our partners at Vibrant Pittsburgh and at Sustainable Pittsburgh, and of course at Duquesne Light Company for embracing us for today's webinar to get more of the word out to our region about the importance of supplier diversity and development and supplier relationships. Thank you so much. Sabrina.
Thank you so much, Tricina. I echo your comments and appreciate everyone's willingness to participate today. And if I can, I would love to just give a virtual round of applause to our panelists, who are amazing contributors today. Thank you for joining us. Joylette, as monitor panelists, you were fantastic and provided a wonderful overview and quite amazing insight for us today. Singh, Charles, Jean, and Steve from Duquesne Light, the fireside chat with Valarie was fantastic and very insightful. Tricina, thanks for being our partner today. This webinar, The Business Case for Supplier Diversity, which was hosted by Vibrant Pittsburgh and presented by the Eastern Minority Supplier Development Council, will be made available on our YouTube channel, and we can also send it out to participants as well. I received a number of requests for it. Finally, please enjoy your week and let's continue these valuable connections. Have a good day, everyone.
All right.